Hi, welcome to Box on the Box, Rock and Celluloid, Bot for short, I'm a Box. So today I've got a review of the remix of Judas Priest's debut album, Rocka Rolla. So this has been remixed by Tom Allen. They managed to get the original master tapes. When you get old master tapes, I think you have to bake them, and then you're going to have to run them back through an old reel-to-reel machine and then extract those individual tracks into the digital universe, and then it can be remixed properly. So not like remastering, where the original recording is just EQ'd differently. So the brief history of Rocka Rolla, basically Priest's debut album. I did a 50th anniversary review of it a while back on my Edward Box Guitar Tuition channel. Band weren't happy with it at the time. They felt it didn't capture how hard they played. They sort of claimed something went wrong with the mastering process. I do have a master of it on the Japanese label. It's 24-bit. It's very good. And I think when I listen to that, it's not a bad sounding record. I think what typifies Rocka Rolla is it just doesn't sound like Judas Priest. The song titles aren't very priesty. The artwork isn't. A lot of the riffing's more bluesy. There's occasional little flashes. Obviously, Rob Halford, I think, does sound pretty Halford-esque, but we'll come to that. So what's the main difference with this remix? So I'm just going to go through it track by track. Obviously, the first original album opens with One for the Road, a track I've always really liked. Quite like the odd time signature. This is kind of like a progressive blues track. Good opener. The main thing you would notice on this initially is the separation and clarity of the instruments is much better. The guitars were always panned left and right, I believe, but it's just crisper. The bass is a little crisper. It's not as boomy. The big difference on this are the vocals and drums. So the drums, what they've tried to do is take the original drum tracks and with modern processing is create more of a live kind of drum sound. Now I like what they've done with the drums, but in reality a lot of 70s drums, unless you're like John Bonham down in like the bottom of a stairwell, capturing it, all the air of the room, a lot of the time they do sound quite dead. It's quite interesting if you listen to the new Queen 1 remix. I recommend you do that. There's a bit of controversy about auto-tuning Freddie Mercury. Well, I like how it sounds, but again the drums on that, the original mix, they have quite a dead, sort of closed off sound, and the drum treatment is similar to this. So in reality, 70s drums don't really sound like this on the 70s recordings. But anyway, the drums are bigger, there's more separation there, and Rob Halford's voice sounds more pointed, and it's kind of more separate, and you can pick out what he's singing, his diction, particularly the ad-libs at the end of this track, which were on at the fade out. You can hear that. So one thing I don't like about this is it doesn't fade out, it just plays to the end. You remember there's that ba-da kind of weird thing just at the end. It's like the band are kind of not sure how to end the song, but it fades off. With this, it just plays to the end and you hear a bit of like, drums and then the band talking. Me personally, I think they should have faded off. I would have faded it off sooner, because effectively the fade off on the original one is they've probably actually made a mistake. He's just caught it, but really it should have faded off sooner. Doing fades is pretty difficult in the manual world. It's a piece of piss in the digital world. You can just set the thing and it'll automate it, but back then there's a bloke going like that down on the master thing. So, and there's a push for time. That's what I think. The other thing you could have done is you could have edited it and created an ending from the existing parts there, which are probably very controversial, but it's kind of down. Anyway, so that's what happens on that. But I do like what they've done. How would I describe the sound of the record is, I was thinking about it, the original Rocka Rolla, when you get a good master of it, it's all sort of cladded into one. It's like a gooey sort of cake, and it's quite nice. It's very warm, and you've got a big booming bass. This is like all your sections of your cake are kind of separate, and you can taste them all more separately rather than one big gooey thing. I know it's a crazy analogy, but that's how I see it. So next up's Rocka Rolla. This is quite a well-known Priest track. This is Glenn Tipton's. He's got 2 writing credits on this album, so he joined shortly before recording. So on this one, there's been another mix of this actually. You can find another mix by Roger Bain from the Hero recording. So what have they done with this? Again, the separation on the guitars is better. There's that kind of ba 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 going against, flamming against the bam bam bam. When it goes into the lead, you know, the Wishbone Ash twin lead bit type of thing. Again, you can just pick out things more. That's one of the good things. When another guitar part comes in, it feels like it's adding something. It feels like the dynamics of it are going up, so to speak. Again, you can pick out Rob's vocals more. Again, this faded out. It just kind of tail off with the band sort of collapsing. Like I said, I don't know why they haven't automated like a really cool fade off. Again, there's a lot of ad-libs at the end. You can hear Glenn's solo at the end. I think it's Glenn. And they've brought that out more. So again, the clarity and separation factor is a lot better. Really, with the digital universe, you know, you can clean things up more, but also you've got more parameters on the frequencies, really, that I would imagine than an old desk, which was probably recording 16 or 24 tracks. You can get into things more and space things out more. Okay, now you've got Winter next. Now this is the track I think really benefits from the remix, the drums. The drums are really powerful on this, and that kind of that heavy groove they've got on this works really well. Rob's vocals sound great. It's you know, sounding really good. It's still got the spooky intro. This is a good mix. Then you've got Deep Freeze. This is KK's feedback wig out. I've got to say I'm not as keen on the mix of this. Deep Freeze is a funny one. You know, it's just a Hendrix Terry Calf feedback wig out. I've always liked it. I always liked the original mix. The atmosphere of it is quite a good trip on headphones. This is the same thing. It seems to have some kind of voice in there as well. There's other weird elements. So I'm not sure. I still like it, but maybe not as much. Then you got Winter Retreat next. Probably a weaker track on the album, but it does sound nice. Again, the kind of phasing on Halford's voice sounds good in this. So I think what it does is brings out the clean sound on the guitar. So your clean sounds on this album are very much just rolling back the volume, I think, on the Marshall. So you get that really classy, bright sheen of the Marshall, but just with that little bit of burr to it. And again, they brought out the clean guitars in a nice way. And I like that, so this works well. And then it goes into Cheetah. So the principal difference with this is maybe for some people the best track on the album, but certainly one of the very best. This has extra harmonica at the start, so Rob Halford used to play harmonicas a little bit on Rocka Rolla, and he does more on this, and it works really nice. It comes in pretty soon. Again, this just kind of stops instead of fading out. I would have automated the fade, but I don't know, fading out's kind of a very 1970s, 1980s thing. In the 1990s, songs tend to end more, I suppose. But I really like this. So that's side one of the album. So overall, you know, I like what they've done. This isn't a replacement for Rocka Rolla. And like I say, if you've got like a good master of it, I think it's quite a nice recording. It's just you can hear things more, and it's got a bit more range. Okay, so on to side two of the original album, you got Never Satisfied. This is again another track that really benefits from the drum mix. Heavy riff on this, and it's got that, is it 5/4 time signature for the solo in the middle. Really heavy, nice kind of panning on, I think it's on KK's solo there. It's quite interesting on the next track, Run of the Mill. I think KK does the solo on that, and again, there's sort of similar effect. But this is, Never Satisfied was always my favourite track on the album. It's between this, Cheetah, and One for the Road, but other tracks have grown over the years on me. So that's really good. He's still got Rob's excellent note he does at the end. I think what comes out on the album is just how good Rob Halford's vocals are on this album. You know, he's not yet a heavy metal singer. He hasn't developed the heavy metal style that he will on Sad Wings, but he's channeling Plant, Gillan, David Byron, Scott Walker, weirdly enough, in that low register, which he'll use in a bit on a later track. His vocals are just really crisp. The pitching's fabulous. You know, to consider he'd never really been in the studio properly before. I think the band, it is a credit to the band, you know, they knock themselves, but when you hear the separation list, the band, Ian Hill, you know, he's getting more melody in. John Hinch, you know, does himself justice. I think he gives a solid drum performance on this, and you can hear the band's very well rehearsed on this. This would have been captured live, and then there would have been overdubs. But anyway, Run of the Mill next. This is Tipton's other co-write. This is the big track, 8 minutes 34. Again, nice overlaid, extra clean bits on this, more separation. I think sometimes the drums are too big here. This is where the remix on the drums, you know, it's got that mellow vibe, this track, and the drums are maybe a bit too enlarged. I've read some reviews where people criticising they can't hear the keyboards, the synths as well, which are really nice at the end of this. But I still like it. Again, it's a song that's grown on me over the years. You got that nice tripped out middle where there's the delicate solo, I think by KK. I'm not sure, could be Glenn. But it's really good, and then Rob really shows off his range on this, and there's a great screams at the end, and then there's that bit where they speed up the delay and he goes in the stratosphere. Then you've got Dying to Meet You. So it's interesting fact here, sorry, a bit of an itch, with this is the main riff, you know, and the chords, you know, really stand out clear on this. You can really hear the interplay between the guitars. Rob's singing "It came in this morning," you know, he's using that sort of Scott Walker range on this. So this goes into the heavy bit afterwards. Now, the argument is, like, there's a track listing here, it's got Dying to Meet You / Hero Hero. You know, it was always Dying to Meet You when I got the vinyl. It's like that on this new release, but was the heavy bit meant to be another track? Was it meant to be called Hero Hero? And if so, maybe the band could have instated that and could have had 11 tracks on this and made the second part of Dying to Meet You Hero Hero. But those tracks, it sounds really good when it goes heavy. I like it. The Hero Hero section is really good, and it has that fantastic Glenn solo. Unfortunately here they have put like a kind of big delay reverb on it. It's panning. And although I like the way they've kind of smoothed it off, I think they've sunk it too much. But it's an interesting solo. It's probably the first really, really good pre-solo, and it's an indication of what's to come from Glenn. And it's also laying down a marker because KK gets more lead on this because he's been there, and that's something that will change. But a really, really, really good track. Then that just finishes. I'm still convinced one of the harmony notes is out on it, but anyway. And then you got Caviar and Meth. So originally this is faded in and faded out. I was reading another review and someone said they always liked that. And I would agree with them actually. It was nice when that track finished and it faded in, it just ended the album. This just kind of doesn't do that. The clean guitar sound really good again, that extra EQ, separation brightness good. The drums aren't too big on it, which I think is the right thing. But again, it just kind of finishes instead of fading off. So I would have programmed the fades, just my opinion. But not having the fades, some of the tracks are longer on here. One for the Road's a bit longer, Rocka Rolla's longer, I think. Deep Freeze a bit longer. And Dying to Meet You, yeah, Cameron and Mao and Meths as well, just slightly, so it's just breaking away a little bit. So yeah, I think listening to the album as well, I think this has always been a really well sequenced album. Something I kind of listening to, I listened to the original mix in the car. You know, the way the songs flow, I think you've got to hand that to Roger Bain. And then there was the other thing he did is he dismissed Sailed Under the Ripper or Victim of Changes. I had those tracks, which we have a lot of thanking for because it meant the band could develop and make their second album masterpiece. But I've always liked this album. I said my 50th anniversary review. It's a good heavy rock album, heavy blues rock album. It's not a heavy metal album. Listening to it today, even when the guitar's kind of a bit more punchy, I should just say that the guitars aren't more distorted. They've got a little more punch, but to get more distortion out of guitars, I'm not sure how you do. You probably have to do something pretty radical, and that could fundamentally alter it. So, you know, the sound of the album isn't metal, but it fits in with what's going on at the time. You know, Rocka Rolla's got a bit of a gallop, so has the Dying to Meet You. And I think they've got that from Nazareth's This Flight Tonight, the Joni Mitchell cover. And that kind of predates Achilles' Last Stand, Lights Out, tracks like that. But obviously the influence of the Alan Atkins era, the songwriting, is prevalent on this. And Glenn Tipton hasn't yet bought what he's going to do fully. But the performance is good. The band sound tight. They sound, you know, you get more clarity on this. There's always going to be criticism of these remixes, as there is of the new Queen 1 album, but this isn't meant to replace, I think Pre-Size it's meant to replace the original, but for us, we've got the original, we've got this, and we can just hear this as a different interpretation. So bar a few reservations, I think this is really good. Okay, so that's my review of the 50th anniversary remix of Judas Priest's debut, Rocka Rolla. Remember to share and subscribe, and I'll see you again soon. Cheers.